The tragic death of Freddie Mercury, the final goodbye of a legend. Freddie Mercury, the charismatic and talented frontman of Queen, left a musical legacy that remains relevant today. However, his life was marked by a silent battle against a devastating disease, HIV/AIDS. His tragic death on November 24, 1991, shocked the entire world. In this analysis, we will explore the key questions about his life, his illness, and his death, trying to understand the circumstances that surrounded his passing and how his death marked a turning point in the public's awareness of HIV. 1. How and when did Freddie Mercury find out he had HIV? Freddie Mercury was diagnosed with HIV in 1987, but it wasn't until 1991 that his illness became public. For years, he fought silently against the disease, choosing to keep his diagnosis private in order to protect his personal life and public image. The news of his illness only came to light shortly before his death, which caused a great shock, as Freddie had been a symbol of vitality and energy on stage. His decision to keep his health status private also had a profound effect on the way his fans saw him, which later led to an outpouring of love and admiration when he passed away. The decision to keep his diagnosis secret also reflects how public figures, particularly in the 80s and 90s, faced the stigma associated with HIV/AIDS. In a world filled with taboos and misinformation about the virus, Freddie, despite his fame and visibility, chose to protect his privacy. This decision was praised by some as a form of dignity, while others regretted that he hadn't used his platform to raise awareness sooner. His tragic death showed just how difficult it was for even the most powerful stars to talk openly about their struggles during such a sensitive time. 2. What were the first symptoms Freddie experienced due to HIV? Throughout his battle with HIV, Freddie experienced several symptoms that became noticeable in the last years of his life. While he initially tried to maintain a normal lifestyle, over time he began to lose weight and showed signs of weakness. Additionally, he suffered from recurrent infections that are typical in people with compromised immune systems, as was the case with Freddie due to HIV. Despite these symptoms, he kept his condition under wraps and continued to work and perform as much as he could, which only added to the shock when his health dramatically declined. Though they were not apparent in the early years, the symptoms started intensifying toward the end of 1990 and early 1991. During this period, his physical appearance changed significantly, leading some fans and people close to him to begin speculating about his health. The weakening of his body was so evident that many began to question whether he was okay, even though Freddie never publicly commented on his condition. This situation became a major secret in the star's life, and it wasn't until he was gravely ill that the world learned the full truth. 3. Why did Freddie Mercury not make his illness public before his death? Freddie Mercury was very private about his personal life, and his decision not to publicly disclose his battle with HIV/AIDS was partly to protect his image and privacy. In a time when the stigma surrounding HIV was very strong, especially in the entertainment world, Freddie feared that his illness could damage his career and reputation. He had built a larger-than-life persona as a confident, powerful performer, and he didn't want this image to be overshadowed by his illness, which was still largely misunderstood at the time. This silence also reflects how, at that time, society viewed people infected with HIV. There was a great social fear of the virus, and people's perceptions were deeply influenced by misinformation. For Freddie, revealing his illness not only meant exposing his private life, but also opening the door to discrimination. Although over time it was understood that his decision was to protect himself, many of his followers regretted not being able to offer him support in his final years. His silence added to the tragedy, as it was a reminder of how stigmatized and misunderstood the disease was in the public eye. 4. What impact did Freddie Mercury's death have on public awareness of HIV/AIDS? Freddie Mercury's death had a profound impact on the public perception of HIV/AIDS. In 1991, the virus was still seen with fear and taboo, and Freddie's death helped humanize the disease, showing that even the brightest stars were not immune to it. Freddie became an icon not only for his music, but also for his bravery in facing the disease, which led to a significant increase in donations and activism related to HIV/AIDS. His death sparked an outpouring of love and support for the cause, with numerous campaigns and foundations created in his honor. After his death, global awareness campaigns about HIV were launched, and efforts were made to reduce the stigma associated with the disease. Freddie's story, a man of great success who lived his life to the fullest while silently battling the illness, touched the hearts of many people. His passing not only raised awareness about the importance of prevention and research, but also helped more people feel comfortable talking about the virus, breaking taboos and stigmas associated with it. In a way, Freddie's legacy was elevated even further as his passing led to a renewed effort to fight HIV/AIDS on a global scale. 5. What legacy did Freddie Mercury leave after his death? Freddie Mercury left a musical legacy that remains alive today. His vocal ability and unique style ensured his place in music history. Songs like Bohemian Rhapsody, We Are the Champions, and Somebody to Love have become timeless anthems. Despite his premature death, Freddie Mercury remains one of the most influential figures in music history, and his life and legacy continue to inspire new generations. His voice, style, and the unforgettable performances he gave on stage have left an indelible mark on the music world. Through his music, Freddie formed a deep connection with his followers, creating songs that spoke of personal struggles, freedom, and universal human emotions. Additionally, his unique style on stage, with his magnetic presence and overflowing energy, remains a model for today's artists. Although he is no longer with us, the impact Freddie left on the music industry, pop culture, and the fight against HIV/AIDS is just as relevant as it was during his lifetime. He will forever be remembered as a true legend whose influence transcends generations and whose music continues to inspire the world. Freddie Mercury's death was one of the most tragic losses in the music world, but his legacy remains a source of inspiration. What do you think about Freddie's life and death? Do you believe his story changed the public's perception of HIV/AIDS? Leave your opinion in the comments, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to see more content like this. See you in the next video. The death of Elliott Smith. Suicide or murder? Elliott Smith, a talented singer-songwriter known for his deep lyrics and melancholic style, left behind an impressive musical legacy. However, his death in 2003 has been a controversial and mysterious topic. He was found with 2 stab wounds to the chest and declared a suicide, but many believe he was murdered. What really happened that night? Today, we will explore the most common questions about his tragic death. 1. What happened the night of Elliott Smith's death? Elliott Smith was found dead in his apartment in Los Angeles on October 21, 2003, with 2 stab wounds to the chest. The official police report declared it a suicide, as Smith had struggled with depression and substance abuse for years. However, the crime scene left many questions. For one, there was no suicide note, which is unusual in most suicide cases. Additionally, the wounds were very deep, making it unlikely that someone would be able to stab themselves with such precision, as the wounds were in the chest area, and it's difficult to imagine a person being able to reach such a position. Experts suggest that the circumstances surrounding his death don't match what we'd expect from a typical suicide. Other details that didn't add up were that the apartment door was locked from the inside, which raised more questions about the authenticity of the suicide. Despite these contradictory elements, the police never reopened the case or found enough evidence to change the official cause of death. 2. Why do some people believe that Elliott Smith didn't commit suicide? There are several reasons why many believe Elliott Smith didn't commit suicide that night. First, as mentioned, the lack of a suicide note is a key factor. Normally, people who commit suicide leave some sort of message for their loved ones or explain their reasons, but this didn't happen in Smith's case. Moreover, those who knew him well, such as his family, friends, and collaborators, stated that he didn't show clear signs that he was on the verge of such an extreme crisis. Some close witnesses mentioned that Elliott, although he struggled with his inner demons, didn't seem to be in a state of complete despair in the days leading up to his death. He had even been working on new music, which many took as an indication that his life wasn't at its lowest point.
But you have a beautiful voice, and sometimes it reminds me of songwriters like Chet Baker or João Gilberto, like a beautiful voice.
That's really nice compliment.
Those men, they were able to just turn up a microphone and boom, their voices just...
There were also claims that Smith seemed to be in a more peaceful phase of his life, which contrasted with the image of someone ready to end everything. This discrepancy between his daily life and the tragedy of his death led many to think that his death wasn't self-inflicted. The situation became even more complicated when his friends and fans pointed out that he wouldn't have abandoned his aspirations and projects for such a fatal act. This was compounded by the strange positioning of the stab wounds, which don't match a typical suicide. 3. What theories exist about his possible murder? Over the years, several theories have circulated about the possibility that Elliott Smith was murdered. One of the most prominent is the one that points to his then-girlfriend, Jennifer Chiba, as a possible suspect. According to some testimonies, the couple had a heated argument shortly before his death, which led some to speculate that the argument could have escalated into a tragic incident. Some close friends of Elliott have stated that the relationship between them wasn't perfect, and that the emotional tension in his personal life might have been a triggering factor for something darker. However, there is no evidence to suggest that Chiba was directly involved. Others, for their part, consider that there could have been more people present in his apartment that night, but the police never found more witnesses. Over the years, many have speculated that someone close to him could have attacked him in a moment of rage, and that the circumstances of the crime scene were manipulated to make it look like a suicide. Another theory suggests that someone with personal motives may have killed him due to conflicts that weren't public. However, authorities have never confirmed any of these theories, and the lack of conclusive evidence has kept the case unresolved. The strange details of the crime scene continue to fuel the idea that it could have been a murder, but the official version remains that of suicide. 4. What was Elliott Smith's relationship with his mental health and drugs? Elliott Smith had a complicated history with mental health and addiction, which played a key role in the speculations surrounding his death. Throughout his career, Smith spoke openly about his struggles with depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. Smith's music was full of dark themes such as loneliness, pain, and despair, reflecting his emotional state during many of his toughest years. During his life, substance abuse, especially alcohol and recreational drugs, was a constant problem, which contributed to the narrative that his death could have been the result of an emotional crisis or a relapse in his addictions. Despite these issues, some of his closest friends claimed that in the final months of his life, Elliott had started to stabilize and was even working more seriously on his music. In the interviews shortly before his death, Smith appeared more positive and at peace with himself, which left many surprised by the official suicide conclusion. This apparent improvement in his life, combined with the lack of a clear reason for such a drastic decision, made many question whether depression or drugs were enough to lead him to such an abrupt end, or if there was another factor at play. 5. Why does Elliott Smith's death remain a mystery? Elliott Smith's death remains a mystery because, despite the many theories, there is no conclusive evidence that definitively solves the case. The inconsistencies at the crime scene, the lack of a suicide note, and the absence of clear physical evidence have left many questions unanswered. The speed with which the case was closed and the official determination of suicide has been questioned by those who know Smith's story and life. The contradictory details have kept speculation alive for over 15 years. Many fans and family members of Elliott feel that the police didn't investigate thoroughly, and that a new investigation could provide answers. The lack of clarity surrounding the facts has made Smith's death a recurring topic in the music world, where theories and speculations continue to grow. While some think that the police rushed to close the case, others believe we will never know the truth behind the death of this talented musician. This has made his story live on, not only because of his music, but also because of the mystery surrounding his tragic end. Elliott Smith's death remains one of the most enigmatic tragedies in the history of music. Was it really a suicide, or was it something much darker? The questions remain unanswered, and many continue to demand justice for clarity on what happened that night. What do you think? Was it a suicide or a hidden murder? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this analysis interesting, don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.